Hello everybody and welcome back to Connect to Tech. It's actually just me this time. Richard is very busy studying for his final year of university. Meanwhile, I have decided that, as you may have seen in our previous podcast, we've talked a lot about Ryzen processors. So, this is an unboxing of the parts for my new computer which I'll be building on the channel in a couple of days' time. Right, so first of all, one thing we will definitely be needing is a motherboard. So, that doesn't actually quite fit. I am the best camera person ever. This is a B450 chipset motherboard by Asus. Asus is just the best brand that we'd recommend for motherboards from past experience. Doesn't mean that any others are necessarily worse, it's just what experience we've had. And I've gone for the B450 chipset because it is the best value, and there's a lot of deals on at the moment for Black Friday regarding these sort of slightly lower end motherboards. But I thought I'll go for a high-end, lower-end motherboard rather than a really low-end, higher motherboard like the X470 chipset or something like that. So this is the motherboard I'm going to be using. You can see things there. So as you can see, this is a AM4 socket motherboard, and this is ready for actually any Ryzen chips. Luckily I got an updated BIOS version that's actually ready for the 3000 chips. Ta-da! Right, first of all we've got a very useful instruction manual with some drivers in it. Never underestimate having one of these because it's actually very useful when you need to know your motherboard layout and what kind of RAM you are going to need. So in this sort of secret compartment there is two SATA cables, and then here is the board. So it's an ATX motherboard because I have a case which will support an ATX size and I use quite a lot of SATA ports in my computer. So there we go, that's the static bag off. And we can see what we've got here. We've got our AM4 Plus socket. We've got two PCI lanes for potential crossfire graphics cards. We've got three PCIe express lanes for networking cards or any other expansion slots. I've also, which is quite exciting, got an M.2 slot, which I will be using. It supports USB 3 Gen 1 for the front panel, and it's got USB 3 Gen 2 at the rear. 4 DDR4 RAM slots, and 6 SATA ports. However, if you are thinking of buying this board, just to let you know that the last two SATA ports share bandwidth lanes with the M.2 slot, so if you're using that, you can't actually use the two last SATA ports. And if we just have a quick look at the I/O on the back, we've got, like I say, two USB 3 Gen 2 ports, USB 3.1 sorry, and USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports. Also a USB-C on there, which is quite nice, and an HDMI, DVI-D, and a couple of USB 2.0 ports because for some reason we still put those on motherboards. So, that is the motherboard, the belly of the beast. Let's move on. Just quickly, also in the box we obviously have the I/O shield, and they've included a little mount for the M.2 drive as well. So this was around £88 on Amazon. So I said I was going to be using an M.2 slot this time round, which I've never actually used before, but I'm going to be using that for my operating system and programs. So I have actually technically opened this one. This isn't really an unboxing. I've gone for a Kingston A2000 M.2 drive, apparently 35 times faster than a standard 7200 RPM hard disk drive, and also unfocusable apparently. That's the 500 gig model, which came to £56.30. It was on a slight discount, and there's not really much to see here, but there it is, the actual drive. And one nice thing they did do is they threw in a activation key for Acronis TrueImage software, which is very handy for making backups and cloning drives. Next, as I'm moving generation of RAM, I'm going from DDR3 to DDR4, I had to get some new RAM this time round. I've never actually had new RAM, I normally go to CEX for second-hand RAM, but as it's DDR4 it's not really worth it yet. So I've got some nice Crucial Ballistix DDR4. There's 16 gigabytes in this kit, running at 3200 megahertz, hopefully, in that motherboard. There's not really much to show here either. They've got quite a nice heat spreader. This came to $59.99, which was on a slight sale again, so I saved about £10 there. And last but definitely not least, here is the centerpiece. The processor that I ended up going for is actually a second gen Ryzen, the Ryzen 2 700X, simply because the performance increase between this and the 3700X is not quite worth £120 more at the moment. This was on offer. I got this for £167.97 on Amazon, which is a really good price for this processor, so it wasn't worth £120 more just for about a 10 to 15% performance increase when I'm already going from an Intel 2600, so it's going to be a huge difference anyway. So if anyone doesn't know, this is an 8-core 16-thread processor with 4.3 GHz max boost clock and a 3.7 GHz base clock, so that is exciting. I've not actually opened this yet, so we are going to open it together. So we're going to just gently undo this seal here. Use knives safely, kids. And I'm going to open this up. I got the deal which included the CPU cooler. More cardboard. Well, at least they packaged them thoroughly. Just get rid of that outer box. Turns out the outer box has the processor in it, so here is the actual processor with a nice sticker. I don't know if you can see there, Ryzen 7 2700X, very exciting. And I'm assuming this is the Wraith cooler. I've heard very good things about these, so I've not actually bothered to buy an aftermarket cooler yet, because I'm going to give this one a go first. They are significantly bulkier and therefore better at dissipating the heat than the old Intel stock coolers. So we've got some pre-applied thermal paste there, and quite a big heatsink for a stock heatsink. That's where they've kind of done well with that, and we'll see in the build video how easy that is to mount. I have a feeling it's actually a very simple mechanism using this lever, but we will find out. So then there's a fan there in the middle, which is actually LED. So there we go. Stick that back in there for now. And that's it. So as I'm just technically upgrading, but it is a new build, I'm going to be using the same hard drive and storage, so I'll go through that when I'm doing the build video. Same case, same everything else. This is all the parts that I've bought new. So I will see you in the build video. Thank you for watching.